A few weeks ago, I found a scene that I thought had some potential. I spent quite a bit of time trying to make some compositions there and failed completely. In fact, I ended up giving up and going on and doing something else in a completely different location. So today, I'm going back there. We're going to explore the opportunities that I missed, and I am determined to come away with at least one, hopefully a few images from that location that I'm happy with. I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you do, and you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe before you go. About 5 or 6 weeks ago, I discovered this cluster of palm trees here, and as soon as I saw it, I thought, there's got to be an image there. Now, I spent quite a long time, much longer than I actually showed you in the video, in and amongst the trees trying to find compositions, and in the end I failed. I did take one shot, but it wasn't very good, and I ended up giving up and going off and doing something else in a different location. However, looking back at it, I've kind of realised that my thinking was very limited. I could have blamed this on the location, I could have blamed the failure on the light. I was like today, it was, very strong, harsh light, middle of the day. But I do a lot of my photography like that recently. I've kind of found that's something I enjoy doing. What I didn't consider was other options, and I wanted to come back today and try some of those other options. Now, I confess, I've kind of been caught out slightly because this is kind of a recreation area around here, and I wasn't expecting there to be so many people about, and certainly cars parked under some of the trees, obviously getting in the shade because it is very warm. Nevertheless, I think I've still got the opportunity to come up with some ideas. And the first thing that I realised I didn't try when I came to this location before, and it's unusual for me because it's normally one of the first things I do when I'm struggling with compositions, I didn't put the telephoto lens on. I didn't consider doing intimate shots looking from a distance with a telephoto lens on, and with the changes in the way we perceive perspective that a longer focal length gives us. So the first thing I want to do is try doing some shots with a telephoto lens. But before I actually take photos, I'm just going to scan the scene. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera onto black and white preview. So that's the picture style is monochrome. Now, just to be clear, all that affects is what I see on the back of the camera. The raw file that I put on the computer will be in color, and I can make the choice later as to whether I want a color image or a black and white. But by putting the preview as black and white, what it makes me do is concentrate on shapes and patterns and textures and contrast between dark and light. What I'm going to do is basically just stand back, probably maybe about 70 mil, something like that, and just kind of scan the scene from different angles and look for any things that seem to jump out at me. So what's really important here is not to hurry this. You have to move slowly, you have to move the camera slowly. Maybe just kind of waving it around and going, oh yeah, there's nothing there. You have to look carefully. It's almost like setting up a search grid and looking at each part of the scene from a slightly different view. And then if I see something, what I might then do is kind of zoom in and take a closer look at it. Sometimes it's easier to do shots looking through the trees if you can do it from further back with a longer lens, as opposed to shooting it from closer in, because if you want to kind of frame a scene in the background between two foreground trees, if you do that from close in, you're probably going to have those foreground trees very, very close and very, very dominant. Whereas if you want to do that from further back, although those foreground trees will still look close, they'll balance better with the background scene with a longer lens. So looking through there, there's a load of the very vertical, almost vertical pine trees in the foreground. And in the background there's a completely different kind of tree, which is much more, shall we say, a traditional tree shape with the branches coming off at different angles. What I'm trying to do is frame this scene with the vertical palm trees, framing it from the sides, the palm fronds or whatever they are, the palm leaves, framing the top of the scene, and then there's a deep shadow in the bottom, and that's framing the bottom of the scene. It's important to get it nice and level. I want to move further back. Now there were two other things that I thought at the time that I should have tried that I didn't. One of them is not going to work today, and that was to do a pano. Now the reason that's not going to work is because of all the people and the cars around, so it's not going to be practical. But the other thing I thought of doing was doing some abstract ICM shots, because we've got some nice vertical trees. I'm going to stick with the 55 to 200 to do these, and I'm going to pop on probably a 6-stop ND filter, which should hopefully let me get fast enough exposure time to be able to do some ICM stuff. And I'm going to be looking basically just for nice verticals, nice interesting textures. I am going to go back over to colour for this. 6-stop ND filter, because I don't want too long an exposure. Yeah, about 1/4 of a second, which with the telephoto is probably going to be good enough, because you get a lot of movement for a small amount of movement, if you see what I mean. Still important to get the composition right, with the trees kind of nicely laid out and avoiding too many distractions coming in. So it's worth taking quite a few shots, and also just because the movement is different on every single shot, so you're never quite sure which one's going to work the best. On the other side of this area, there's another wooded area which is more sort of different types of pine trees. I'm doing the same thing over this side as I did over the other side. Long lens on, and just basically scanning the scene, looking through the camera and seeing if any scenes come out at me, in terms of shapes, luminance, contrasts, and of course textures as well. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have and you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you go. But either way, thank you very much for watching, and until next week, bye.